another deficit budget for 2022. Opposition says government failed to table budget. And opening of 8th Council Chamber in New Ireland.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Seah.
Good evening, I'm Helen Seah and welcome to Thursday's news. Our stories on the 2022 budget later on in the bulletin. But first, one of the country's founding fathers, Sir Julius Chan, says building a council chamber is a legacy project for local people to seek the first hand of government. Sir Julius said the chamber affirms power and authority and will properly channel government services by the president and councillors. The New Ireland governor expressed these at the recent opening of the Tikana council chamber.
Down the Losuk Way, the New Ireland governor led a delegation to open the Tikana Council Chamber. A strong traditional entertainer, cultural gifts were exchanged for the occasion. For Governor Chen, establishing this building at a community level is significant to connect people and government.
May you serve the people with dignity and leaders and servants of the people. Be leaders and followers at the same time. You play no and pray. Fear not to put your people first. This is not the time to play around with people's money. We must think new and act new. You must not be choked with government funds. It is your own money in the first place.
A special monument was also built to remember former community leaders from the Tikana area. The building hosts office space, a chamber and amenities. Governor Chen said it is an iconic structure for the people.
Now you may continue the implementation of Walking Good by all the people of Tikana and all the people of New Ireland, but you may all get a Hamas because New Ireland is moving forward and the rest of the country will follow because we are the model of Papua New Guinea.
Speaking to members of the council, Governor Chen reiterated the efforts to build necessary infrastructure under the Malagan Declaration towards autonomy. He said this move is about a true freedom for New Ireland to develop.
This is a move that is really about allowing New Ireland to realize its full potential under the Constitution and laws of this country. Freedom requires education. Freedom requires decent health care. Freedom requires good infrastructure. Freedom requires giving the people the tools they need to be successful.
The Tikana Council Chamber cost 700,000 kina. This is the 8th Council Chamber built by the provincial government with an initial 5 million funding in 2019 for the building of modern council chambers for all LLGs. Jake Lopava Jr., National EMTV News.
The National AIDS Council Secretariat says HIV prevalence remains high at 0.9%. Acting Director Tony Lupiwa says HIV services such as mass awareness are not reaching enough of the population due to lack of funding. This was revealed during a recent data workshop.
In a recent data workshop held by the National AIDS Council Secretariat, HIV is still here and is once again on the rise. The 2020 statistics show that there are now 55,000 people living with HIV in the country. Data shows that there are around 9 new infections of HIV per day, and the majority occur among the economically active age group of 15 to 49 years old.
And in a day, there are 2 people dying of HIV. And this is how serious it is. And it is increasing at a rate of 3,400 cases a year. Last year alone, we had 3,400. And in this year, it may go up above that.
While the prevalence still remains high, National AIDS Council Secretariat Acting Director Tony Lupiwa says funding has been a major burden for the organization to carry out mass awareness across the country. The acting director says NCD is leading with the highest in the country.
Because there aren't many messages going out as we used to do before, where we had mass awareness happening all around the country on media and in billboards around the country that showed messages telling people to have safe sex, because it's the nation's capital where Papua New Guinea is, and NCD leads, followed by Enga, and then comes Jiwaka.
According to the statistics, there has been a decrease in the number of deaths in the country due to the antiretroviral therapy treatment.
The treatment part of it is a success in Papua New Guinea. We have people now living with HIV on treatment. We have about 65% of all people living with HIV on treatment. That is why we are now seeing decrease in number of people dying from HIV.
Lupiwa stated that stigma and discrimination, including gender-based violence, have been established as key barriers to HIV prevention and negatively impacting all stages of care and treatment cascade for people living with HIV. He is appealing to public to come forward and get tested to know their status.
Stigma and discrimination remain the barrier for HIV control in Papua New Guinea. If we have more people come out and get themselves tested, we can have them on treatment, and that will prevent the transmission in Papua New Guinea. It is very key and a major prevention strategy that is now adopted all around the world.
Podivai, National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, condom programming in Papua New Guinea continues to remain a public health concern. In a recent data workshop held yesterday, National AIDS Council Secretariat revealed that lack of knowledge on condom use, availability and accessibility is worrisome, especially for the sexually active population.
We cannot get it on time to the provinces where it is needed. That's one. And two, where they are, they cannot access. They may be a long way away from where the condoms are. We've just completed the what we call comprehensive condom programming for PNG, a policy that we have developed with the support of UNAIDS and UNFPA. And that policy is going to guide the condom procurement, distribution, and sustainability around the country starting next year, because we are going to launch that in the beginning of the year. And that will be a guide to condom distribution around the country. And we hope that the government will support us in making sure that condom is available everywhere in the country where people can have easy access to it.
Over 40 health workers under the Morabit Provincial Health Authority have completed an online training on pediatric care. The participants were presented with their certificates yesterday after completing the 2-week course. The Monash Online Pediatric Essential Care course was designed to grant participants access to online theoretical learning materials. The training was delivered through a partnership between the Monash University and John Staff International Development to enable pediatric staff to be updated with information online and upskill them. The participants will be assisted with online accounts for accessibility. This initiative is part of the overall Anga redevelopment project with the aim to train the workforce to complement the hospital's redevelopment. You're watching National EMTV News. We'll have more stories after these short messages. Stay with us. Welcome back. Under challenging circumstances in the midst of the global COVID-19 pandemic, the Marape government is determined to lead Papua New Guinea into surplus budgets again in the next 5 years or more. Treasurer Ian Starkey emphasized on this whilst presenting the 2022 budget in Parliament today. This comes amidst government faced with the challenge of managing PNG's budget deficit of 6 billion kina, while government expenditure and revenue are expected to increase in 2022.
Treasurer Ian Starkey presented his third national budget today in Parliament. There is challenge for the government to manage the 6 billion kina budget deficit. And whilst revenues and expenditures are to grow next year, the work of trying to repair the budget will have to continue. The 6 billion kina budget deficit is 54.2% of GDP, and PNG's debt to GDP ratio is less likely to go below the 50% mark until 2027.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased today to share these results. The usual 5-year budget plan, using the usual Treasury assumptions, would have shown a small but continuing deficit at its end. By extending the plan by just 1 year, from 2026 to 2027, the next term of Parliament, we see something very, very different, something very important. For the first time since 2010, our government, the Marape government, has a plan to return our budget to surplus.
Among the revenue growth expected, an NEC decision has approved the introduction of a proposed new levy on dominant industry players, especially in the banking and telecommunications sectors. This has raised some concerns leading up to the budget presentation today. However, Treasurer Starkey is confident of going through successfully during the COVID-19 pandemic and getting the country out of debt.
There is a major increase in the PIP capital budget of 19%, increasing from 4,824 million kina to 5,758 million kina. Overall, our public investment program funding has increased by 167%, from 2,155 million in 2018 to the current levels.
Parliament resumes next Tuesday to deliberate on the budget. Denny Sorere, National EMTV News.
And now looking at the NASFund market report, the kina opened unchanged at $0.2850 in the interbank markets. At Bank South Pacific, your kina is buying $0.2775 USD, $0.3819 Australian dollars, $0.4001 New Zealand dollars, and 31.45 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher, coffee closed higher, cocoa and copra closed lower. Crude oil is trading lower, palm oil and copper closed lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed lower, the ASX 200 is trading lower, and the All Ordinaries is trading lower. You're watching National EMTV News. We'll have more stories after these messages. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. The 2022 national budget themed Lighten the Burden was handed down in Parliament. The 22 billion kina budget is framed on the back of modest recovery measures by government to repair and rebuild the economy with a strong focus on non-resource sectors at a 5.4% growth rate next year.
The mining sector is expected to drive the economy forward in 2022 in a broad-based economy. While there is an emphasis on long-term tax, the government is expected to build more road infrastructure through its Connect PNG policy, using the network as linkages to cocoa, coffee and copra plantations. The new revenue-raising avenues will see the introduction of a banking levy of 190 million kina and a telecommunications levy of 95 million kina. The removal of tariffs on imported refined petroleum products is on top of the list of revenue policies to promote fairness and equity. This is a budget for an election year, and the biggest spending on the priority list is the 2022 national elections, with an allocation of 600 million kina. The second biggest allocation is for the government's tuition fee subsidy, with 632 million kina allocated for subsidy. The current government is focused on keeping the debt levels low, looking to repair and maintain a budget that has a 6 billion kina deficit. The government is still looking to concessional loans in 2022 to ensure there is government spending available for development.
Why borrowing so high? We are in a global pandemic. There is an economic slowdown. Now, it hits countries like ours a little bit harder than it hits larger countries. The reality for us is that we're not able to slingshot the growth that happens in our core sectors, in our core areas. So those main towns of Port Moresby, Hagen, Goroka, Lae, Kokopo, Mount Hagen, Madang, for example. So the only spending, the only economic activity, the only drive that's happening is from government expenditure. So again, that's the problem. So the solution, of course, is for us to borrow cost effectively and try and make sure that we are building roads, schools, bridges and hospitals, that we are investing in our youth, our church partnership and our gender agenda.
The focus of the Marape-led government is to create a path to recovery with an increased development and capital funding to high-priority programs to ensure there is sufficient funding for key social sectors and to stimulate economic growth.
The opposition has accused the government of not tabling the 2022 national budget today. They say the government failed to provide one of the most important documents of the budget, the Volume 1 of the budget books.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bills be now read together a second time.
This is Treasurer Ian Lingstaki in Parliament today, tabling the 2022 national budget. At least that's what the government believes he is doing. The opposition, on the other hand, says otherwise, claiming the Treasurer did not table any budget today, branding the Treasurer sneaky stucky.
Really, there was no budget table today.
The opposition said the government failed to present the most important part of the budget, the Volume 1 of the budget books.
Opposition is very much concerned that the important piece of the budget document, the Volume 1 of the budget, was not presented. What was presented today was just a statement by Ian Lingstaki, the Treasurer, which indicates nothing. It's just all rhetorics, usual rhetorics by Ian Lingstaki.
Right now we don't have the budget, and so we are left in suspense. And quite frankly, the country is left in suspense because we don't know what the substance of the budget is. We only know the rhetoric that is contained in Lingstaki's speech. But that is not the substantive budget. That is 10 pages of flowery language talking about balanced budgets and record growths and all kinds of things that you and I know are far from the truth. We want the truth.
What is the importance of Volume 1? Volume 1 contains the policies and the plans of the government that shapes the allocation of 22 billion kina in terms of public monies. Now, that Volume 1 will contain information on the budget side of the revenue, expenditure, the financing, the debt, how much, which of that it comes from external or domestic. It contains all the information on the reforms that the Treasurer is talking about. in his speech. We want to know what reforms is contained in the budget. So there are a lot of things that are missing.
Nama says this is another illegal budget.
So we take a Treasurer statement as just a minister's statement. It was not a budget statement. How can the opposition respond to the budget on Tuesday next week in the absence of a very important budget document, Volume 1? So we are saying that this government is very sneaky, and we have a treasurer that I call him Sneaky Stucky, by not following the budget process, by not following the proper budget legal framework.
We want to know what are these measures, how are they going to affect our people, the business houses out there. Is this a good tax or not? These are contained in Volume 1, and if they withheld back Volume 1, it's like, they're clipping our wings. We can't perform as the opposition in terms of our mandatory role to give the government in check, to scrutinize the money plan. The budget is a very, very important document and policy that will affect all our lives.
Nama went on to criticize the government for Lingstaki's proclamation that the Marape government is the infrastructure government.
I have not seen and witnessed one kilometer of road being sealed by the Marape government. How can Marape government be an infrastructure government? That is why I say all of Treasurer's statement is all rhetoric.
The Treasurer also tabled several amendments, including the Income Tax Act, that all went through second readings before the Parliament adjourned to the 30th of November.
We are seeing the benefits
National
of the
EMTV
Marape reform continue.
With a vision to be dynamic, progressive and offering accessible financial service in the Pan-Pacific region, Kinabank today announced the launching of their new website. The website will complement a wide range of banking services in the market. According to Kinabank's Executive General Manager Banking, Eliseo Limited, the website will provide efficient service for their customers.
According to Kinabank, banks in Papua New Guinea have to take responsibility for driving education and accessibility when it comes to digital banking. The website will offer a range of products and services including personal and business loans, as well as market-leading savings products.
The website complements a wide range of services that we have out there in the market currently. The website specifically has a lot of functionalities that we've actually built into the new website. For instance, we've got a calculator for customers who want to be able to use our Tomorrow Savings product to be able to save and gain bonus interest. They can go onto the website, use the calculator, and they can make assumptions around what kind of saving goals they want, and the calculator will automatically give them data or information around how much they can actually save over a period of time.
Executive General Manager Banking of Kinabank, Eliseo Limited, says there is an increase of customers who are willing to use the digital platform of the banking service.
Customers going to internet banking has almost grown by about between 40 to 50%. So that gives us the indication that Papua New Guineans are becoming more affluent, and the appetite is there to actually bank digitally. And as a bank, we are actually fundamental to that kind of migration or shift towards digital services, and therefore we need to facilitate that growth into the digital economy. And I think it's quite important, and it's part of our strategy, as Greg said, as being a dynamic and a progressive bank.
CEO Greg Posen says the aim is to provide fast and efficient services to their customers. He says the functions of the website is user-friendly and will save time.
And it's actually better for budgeting too. I know even personally, you go withdraw a couple of hundred kina and you end up with all this change. Whereas, if you're using your card, it actually, I think, improves your ability to save as well.
Podivai National EMTV News.
Eliseo Limited, a wholesale retail company, has opened another shop, a supermarket, today in Port Moresby. This is the company's 5th outlet since its establishment in 2014.
Eliseo Limited today saw the opening of its 5th outlet, a department supermarket in Waigani National Capital District. Eliseo Limited is an Asian-owned company that has served the city residents since 1995. CEO Jovin Yan says after a change of management in 2014, Eliseo Limited began at Gordon's and Erima in Port Moresby.
Right now, this year, we get this branch at Eliseo Waigani to provide best price and one-stop shopping center, and all wholesale customers can come together to one-stop shopping here.
Employing over 750 Papua New Guineans and 50-plus foreigners, particularly Filipinos and Chinese nationals, Eliseo management says they are looking at expanding with the intention of improving local communities, particularly that of the nation's capital.
Firstly, when we take over is by Gordon's and Erima shop. We provide cheaper price and for market give to all customers, so that's why it's very popular. So after we, at 2017, we get a new shop at East Bogo. It's like a coming up supermarket. After supermarket at East Bogo 2018, we get a new supermarket at Hohola also. That will become more modern.
As part of the company's social obligations, Eliseo has also assisted in the recent COVID-19 pandemic.
I think more responsibility communities. This Eliseo, what I mean, is to always thinking, money first, no. I can make money, but I improve the profit, improve the locals. And second, I will look after all the employees. Yeah. I will give them more customer, give them good service, get more, look after all the village lines, church lines, all peoples. Yeah. This Eliseo responsibilities. Yeah. Since last year, Eliseo, the COVID-19, we gave the 4 container goods to NCTC to share the hard time the last year. And also, last year we gave the 1 million masks get to church, school, police, NCTC, the many hospitals. Yeah. Our heart is very good heart. It's always we know how to spend the money to help the local communities. That's why Eliseo can grow fast. Because all thinking, I'm not thinking for myself. I'm thinking for all the supplier, all the customer, all the communities first. After I think myself.
Kilawani National EMTV News.
Trukai Sports is next. All the details after the break.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Port Moresby Rugby Football League is scheduled to kick off finals this weekend. The regular season ended early this week with top 8 teams making the finals.
Can you congratulate the footing coach?
The country's premier competition, the Port Moresby Rugby League, will go ahead with the finals this weekend. Due to the plight caused by pandemic, the season began on July this year. With the finals approaching, POM RFL board says all clubs must still maintain to abide by COVID-19 measures.
We don't want to spoil the competition because once we're in default, the competition can be shut down, and we won't not be given that opportunity again next year if the COVID-19 pandemic keeps going on.
Despite the challenges faced in hosting the games, POM RFL has successfully pulled off another unusual season with just 11 rounds of competition. The top 8 teams who have booked a spot in the finals will play on Saturday and Sunday at the Oil Sets National Football Stadium Oval 2.
Games will be played in 2 parts. That's the qualifying part, that is the top 4. The top 4 teams in both A grade and under 20 will play for the qualifying finals. That's on Saturday. And the next 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 will be playing for the elimination. That will be on Sunday. As it is, the draws are, we start on Saturday at 10 o'clock with Storms playing Butterflies, and at 11 o'clock, Souths playing Magani. At 1 o'clock, we'll have Holoflies play Tarangao, and at 3 o'clock, we'll have Brothers play the Warriors.
The finals will also see the under-20 and women's division compete to proceed to the semi-finals next week. Suli, Trukai Sports.
Reintroducing the school's rugby competition is a major goal for the PNG Rugby Football Union. The concept is a vital part of the organization's junior development pathway, nurturing the next generation of the country's player base.
PNG Rugby Football Union wants to establish a better integrated school rugby competition in all major unions around the country.
We want to have, school rugby introduced again. There's a lot of stakeholders that we need to convince, like the government and education department to come in on board. And that's why we've introduced the Get Into Rugby because of tag. They're only playing tag. But if you could get all the other stakeholders to buy in, then we can really, introduce the school rugby, again, and hopefully a lot of schools can participate as well.
The member unions in the country must also have greater accountability in the running of the competitions, with programs and tournaments in line with PNG RFU's rules and regulations, safeguarding the integrity of the sport.
Exciting times for us. The new board is in place, and we want to get the unions to really pull up their socks, and that's one of our drive, to try and get them, working properly, and have more support from PNG Rugby. So that's one of our goals next year.
Huxley Lovai, Trukai Sports.
And that ends Trukai Sports. The weather details coming up next.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
I'll look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region. Cloudy with a few showers in Port Moresby and Kerema. Fine, although cloudy in Daru. Partly cloudy weather in Alatau and some showers and thunderstorms in Popondita. In the Mamase region, cloudy with rain showers and possible thunderstorms in Ley. Some rain in Wau. Cloudy with a few showers in Medang, Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, partly cloudy weather in Lorengau. Mostly fine, though partly cloudy in Kavieng, Kokopo, Rabaul and Buka. And partly cloudy with brief showers in Kimbe. And in the Highlands region, cloudy with rain showers and possible thunderstorms, then morning fog in Mount Hagen, Mendi and Wabeg. And cloudy with rain showers, then morning fog in Goroka and Kundiawa. Forecast for small crafts for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG, Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Islands and Kerema to Yule Island and Hood Point to Samari Islands, with waters of Samari Islands to Cape Vogel and eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, including waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Waters north of Cape Vogel through Huon Gulf and Finschhafen, including waters north of Long Island to Medang to Wewak to Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border, with waters of New Ireland to New Britain and Bougainville, seas of 0.5 to 1 meter. Waters of Finschhafen through Vitiaz and Dampier Strait to Siasi and Long Island, seas of 1 to 2 meters. A look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. In the Coral Sea, seas slight to moderate with northeast to southeasterly winds at 10 to 20 knots. In the Solomon Sea, seas slight with easterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, seas slight with east to southeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with southeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
And that's been the news, sport and weather for Thursday, 25th of November 2021. Until next time, pleasant viewing, be safe and good night.